And we're live again. We're live again. Hey, Dina.
Hello.
All right. So today we're going to have two topics. Topic number one, Dina will present
The time machine.
Yeah. Oh, the time machine it is. And I'll tell you about the magic of Rapport, how to instantly connect with people.
Okay.
And if you pay attention closely, you'll be able to very greatly benefit from this, because we've lost probably a lot of friends and family leaving Jehovah's Witnesses, and a lot of people are shy because they don't know how to connect with others. But if you stick with us, we'll teach you how to use your brain and hacks to connect with others.
While you traveled.
All right. Awesome. We have some eyes on us already. That's fantastic. At least we're not talking to a wall. And today, what are we talking today? Today, we're going to travel through time. Why we want to travel through time? Is time travel possible? Only Simpsons can travel through time.
Or so they told you.
That's true. That is true. What is going on? Okay, so because of this context of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and the religious trauma syndrome that we're trying to heal, how is traveling through time helping ex-Jehovah's Witnesses? Dina, walk us through this.
Because sometimes they're stuck in the past. And sometimes they don't know where the future is or how to get there. So this is a way that, well, first of all, whoops, I have a new microphone, so I'm probably going to hit it a bunch of times here. Anyway, your brain is constantly organizing time, and you may not realize how you know what was yesterday and what's tomorrow. How do you know? Your brain knows. And the time machine technique is hugely beneficial for helping us move forward and leave the past behind and fix the past and straighten out the past and make sure we have a destination that we're going forward to.
Okay, I'm going to be the guy who's going to ask you the questions that everybody thinks, but they're not here. Okay. You can change the past. Can you?
Watch me.
All right, then.
Okay, so when I start with the past, all right, the easiest way is to do this. Okay. The brain organizes time almost like a road, okay? There's a direction that goes out into the future, and there's a direction that goes out into the past. There's no really right or wrong way to do this. Everybody's brain does it a little bit different, but there's ways that we can optimize it to where it works for us better. So some people will imagine the future as a path that goes out to the front and the past that like a road that goes out behind them. Some people see it as a highway that's in front of them, with the future either going to the right or to the left or vice versa. Every brain is a little bit different. Yeah. Okay. Or some people see it as a V. They see the future on one side and the past on one side. That's okay. So that's one way that you can organize it, but it can usually be optimized a little bit more, because when somebody sees the past in front of them, that can block your progress because you're looking at the past all the time. Nobody knows what the heck I'm talking about.
Well, I think I know. One of the really powerful beliefs that I adopted a long time ago is that the past does not equal the future.
Okay.
But I do understand that for a lot of people it does, because whenever they look forward, they're thinking, if this is my future. I mean, they basically judge the future based on what happened in the past. So they adopted beliefs of people are, world is, and men are, worldly people are, Jehovah's Witnesses are, and then they're just thinking that's how it is, that's how it was, that's how it will be. Automatically, they're thinking that the future will be like.
So a huge thing that I find with a lot of people, well, even our words say it. You'll hear somebody say that they're stuck in the past, or
Yes.
that they're reliving the past.
Yes.
And you know what? I talked to a lady, and from the way she was talking and the way her body language was and everything, I would have guessed that she had probably left maybe 6 to 12 months ago. So when I asked her, okay, so how long has it been? She's like, 25 years. Whoa, that is a mental program right there.
Mhm.
It's not just how they're coding the future, but it's also how their brain is coding the past. And that can be fixed. So obviously we've talked a lot about restructuring memories and things like that. But sometimes the reason why a person is stuck in the past is because literally the brain has them in the past. It either has the past out in front of them, or the past is scrunched up like a traffic jam on top of them, where they're not letting past events go back on the road behind them, stretched out behind them. That's why some people have memories that feels like it was yesterday, because quite often, well, it's very common for a timeline, the future to be in front and the past to be in the back. That's the most common, probably. So when somebody tells me that they feel like it was just yesterday and it's a memory that was 25 years ago, almost always their past timeline is scrunched up on their head.
Hmm.
So that could be cool if you like those memories, but if you're looking to leave something behind, there's our words that are already telling us that this is what the brain is already doing. We can clean up that timeline. We can stretch those memories farther back. So instead of feeling like they were yesterday here all close on top of us, we stretch it out and it gives us distance between those memories of the past. And then we don't feel like we're reliving it constantly. It doesn't feel like we're stuck there.
Mhm.
So then when we talk about the future, that can be problematic too. We've talked about before how a lot of times people, they lose their future destination when they leave. So a lot of times when they visualize how the future looks to them, it'll be like a cramped, dark path. And
Okay.
that can lead to depression, that can lead to other trouble. So we can open up the timeline, we can open up the future. So instead of feeling like it's this teeny tiny dark path, we can make it a 4-lane highway that's bright and lit up with a destination on the end of it. And it completely changes your timeline. It completely changes how you feel about the future and how you feel about the past.
Okay. So for most Jehovah's Witnesses, including myself, when I thought about the future, I thought of a narrow road with a narrow gate, and only
Exactly.
sometime in the future, when I go through this narrow road and the narrow gate, I'll end up in paradise and all my desires and dreams will come true.
Mhm.
But on that path, the path has to be difficult. The path to that gate has to be hard, full of sacrifices and full of,
Yes.
tough times, right? As we're going through the system of things and the end of the system of things.
Mhm.
Now that this image shattered from my head, I remember being completely lost.
Exactly.
I felt like at least I had a path. It was small and then narrow, but at least there was a path. At
And
least
there was
there
a
was a vision.
destination.
There was
There
a
was also a
destination,
destination.
rough timeline. So I
Mhm.
thought, oh, it's gonna all happen during my lifetime. So I had a vision, I had a goal, I had, clear in my mind which way I have to go and what to do. And the more rules, actually, rules were easy because as long as you have the destination and the vision, the rules that they give you They're more like a relief that you don't have to figure this stuff out yourself because you just know what to do. It's like when you go to work and your boss tells you, do whatever you want, and I'm gonna judge you based on your performance. People feel completely lost. But if if your employer tells you, pick up this box, take this material, put it in this box, put it in this conveyor belt, or whatever, if the instructions are very clear, then people feel good because now there is a measuring stick. So we had this measuring stick, we had this vision, we had the rules, we had everything in place, and it worked. It worked for our mind. Our mind loved it because we felt full of purpose, full of vision, full of path and future. We had everything figured out. And when that shattered, I felt lost. I felt confused. I felt depressed. I felt like, okay, I'm free. I'm purposeless.
Yeah.
I'm free, but I don't know which way I'm going. I don't know if I have a meaning in life. How do you overcome this?
Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk about too. So everybody has to have in your mind a destination, something in the future that you're looking forward to. This is why when you ask a little kid, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like, I want to be an astronaut. It's because the brain is automatically putting these goals in the future, these future destinations. They do not have to be realistic. The brain doesn't care about whether it's realistic or not. You just have to have something that you're going forward to.
Clearly.
So like when a little kid wants to be an astronaut when they grow up, they don't really care about what steps it takes to get there. They just have that destination on their road. So when you're in the religion, there's usually two things on your timeline, future timeline. One is Armageddon and the other one is paradise. So when they leave the religion, you lose paradise, which so your good thing is gone. And most of us are left with this cramped little dark path that leads to Armageddon. And that's depressing. That's very, very depressing. Mm-hmm. The optimized future timeline is it's broad and spacious. It has exits off of it, which helps the brain understand that there's options, that there's opportunities, that it's not just one narrow path that goes forward, but it's a big road with lots of options to different destinations if that's what you choose. And that the brain loves that because now you're feeding it something, you're giving it something to look forward to, you're giving it something to move forward to. A lot of times people get depressed when they leave the religion, and that's almost always because their future vision is dark. They don't know where they're going anymore. They don't see the destination anymore.
Yes.
So this is probably the absolute first thing that I do with somebody when I'm coaching in XJW. We fix the future timeline, put some better goals, some better destinations out there. Even if they don't know what they want their destination to be, the very least we can do is broaden up the future, brighten it up, put some exit ramps on it, put some branches on that road so that you feel like you've got options as you're going forward through time. And I also tell people too that it doesn't have to be super realistic even, because dream big, paradise, lions, tigers, and bears wasn't necessarily realistic, but it still works for the brain because it gives you something to go for. When a little kid wants to be an astronaut, they're not thinking about I'm never going to be able to do that. No, they're just going forward towards it. And that's extremely healthy. That's really healthy. So once we get the future fixed, then we also want to fix the past. And we want to make sure that it's not like a traffic jam behind us or that we're not I've had people feel like they're standing in a traffic jam or feel like their timeline circles in place. Because there's all kinds of ways that the brain can imagine it. And so if you're like on one of those little circle things, I don't know if you have those in Canada.
Carousel?
When you're driving. No, it's not a carousel. It's when you're driving on the road and then you go in a circle and there's
they're full. In Europe, they're roundabouts. We call them
roundabout. That's what it is. Some people feel like they're in this permanent roundabout.
Yeah.
that doesn't work either. Or I hear people say that they feel stuck. So if I have them look, imagine your timeline and look at your feet, sometimes they'll actually feel like they're in quicksand. Like their road is made of like their stream of time is made of quicksand and they're stuck in it. Okay, so we need to fix that too. We need to firm up the road. We need to put some pavement on that road so that you can walk on it instead of being stuck in time, stuck in it. And then, like I said, making sure that what happened to us doesn't stay here on us, that we can move, that we could stretch that out so it doesn't feel like you're constantly living the same memories over and over again.
But Dina, there is this voice in my head that says, "Who are you kidding? You are not going to be an astronaut. You are kidding yourself. It is a delusion." How do we deal with
Way
that?
to crush a little kid's dreams.
Well, we're adults now, and there is that voice louder and louder because you're like, oh, you thought you're gonna be an astronaut, you thought you're gonna be a fireman, you thought you're gonna be a police officer, you thought you're gonna be an engineer, all
We
in
change
the
our
space of 5
destinations.
minutes.
Yeah, well, we change our destinations.
Right. So
As long as there's
you
a
deal with that
destination.
voice that says, "Who are you kidding?" Because usually that voice is very powerful.
Okay, all right. That's okay. There's a lot of time in between now and that goal. And there's exit roads off of there. So if you decide that you don't want to be an astronaut, take exit 32 and go do something
Wait,
else.
there is more than one road and more than one path and more than one gate.
Absolutely. See, and this is the brain creates the way to the future sometimes too. See, everything that happens in life starts with a thought first. How do you get a boiled egg? The boiled egg doesn't just jump in the pot. You visualize it first, which leads you to the actions, which leads you to take the egg and you put it in the boiling water. It all starts with what you're imagining in your mind first. If you're imagining a boiled egg, you're not going to get a fried egg. The brain moves towards what you put it towards. Okay, and so maybe your logical brain thinks that's impossible. But you know what? I would coach you on that too. What's impossible? Who says it's impossible? And I would actually attack the beliefs on that first. I would reframe those beliefs first because you know what? There are plenty of people who at 50 decide they're going to go get a college degree. Or, I don't have my book in front of me right now, but I just made a list of all these crazy people who did all these crazy accomplishments after 50. This is not the end of the world. You're coming to your road with more wisdom, knowledge, intelligence. I mean, you've got lots of skills that you didn't have when you were 20. So in a lot of ways, maybe it wasn't possible when you were younger, and maybe it's even more possible now that you're older and wiser and you're extremely motivated because you've got time to make up. You've got to fast forward. And we didn't have lots of options before. We didn't have career options. We didn't have money options. We didn't have education goals. And now's the time to plan those in if you want. Okay, so, maybe you don't go and become a doctor right now, but maybe you decide that you want to get an associate's degree or something like that. As long as the brain has something to look forward to, it relieves depression super fast.
Usually when I coach people for a vision, gotta create a vision. Even the Bible says people without vision will perish.
This is closely related to vision.
Pardon me?
Very closely related to vision. They go hand in hand.
Right. So when I do this, I tell them, write everything, whatever comes to your brain. Never think about how. You just think about what is it that you want. If you had an unlimited amount of money, unlimited amount of time, and you had no fear, and you couldn't fail.
Yeah.
Start. And then just the people are like, I can do this. Like, just write Write everything, whatever comes to your head. It doesn't have to be realistic. It doesn't have to be like
Mhm.
nothing. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about people. Nothing. Just write stuff down. Okay. And that just opens up their mind. And here's one challenge: we've been programmed into so many negative things in our life that majority of people actually will start writing what they don't want. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to drive this crappy car. I don't want to be sick. I don't want, and then just focus on the negative by saying
Right.
what they don't want. And it's actually very difficult for them to dream about something that could be good in their future. They
Mhm.
can't imagine a beautiful house. They cannot imagine living in Ecuador with a goat. They cannot imagine, doing whatever it is that they wanted to do. They just think about what is that they don't want. And then guess what? Your brain will not pick up the negative. It will steer you towards what you don't want. Just like I
Yeah.
can tell you, don't think about the color blue. Whatever color you're thinking, don't think about the color blue.
And whatever you do, don't think of Bigfoot.
Yeah. So your brain will not pick it up. It's
Yeah,
just
it does.
it's
It
a
automatically puts
keyword.
in the negative. Yeah.
And what I also do sometimes with clients do this. I'll tell them, okay, go on Google and write down in Google. You can do this even with me right now as I'm speaking. Put in Google, I don't want to see red balloons. Okay. And guess what comes out?
That's a good one, Jack. I like that.
I said, I don't want to see red balloons. And he pulls out a whole bunch of red balloons.
Yep.
See, the internet cannot pick up the negative either because it picks up a keyword, red balloon. And our mind is exactly the same. It will not pick up on the negative. So when you're creating your vision, it has to be exactly what it is that you want, not what you don't want. And if your mind keeps going towards the negative because you've been programmed for a billion years and it's always, I don't want, then guess what? Write down everything you don't want on one page, and the opposite to it is usually your destination.
Exactly.
And maybe oh, I've been with this really bad guy, and he was drunk, and he was beating me, and he was abusing me. And I'm like, what kind of a guy do you want? I don't want somebody who's like this. I don't want somebody who's. I'm like, what kind of a guy do you want? And they can't figure it out because in their head, this is what they don't want, and they've been hurt so much. So I'm like, okay, tell me everything you don't want, and then the opposite would be your dream guy,
Finish the sentence. Yeah.
right? And then just start writing the
Yeah.
opposite. And it's a file in the brain that is just, it was never created. It's funny, but it's true.
Mhm.
It's just we're always on what we don't want, and then they're trying to like, how come I always get what I don't want? Well, because you programmed your mind to look for it. It's that's how it is. It's just like when I Google what I don't want, guess what's gonna come out?
Yep.
What you don't want. So stop
Exactly.
it.
And I tell people too, if you dream big, even if you only get 50% of it, you're still probably going to be a lot farther ahead than what you are now. If you decide you want to make $1 million and you fail miserably at 500,000, you might still be better off than where you are right now.
100%.
So
100%.
even if you don't make the entire goal, at least your brain has something to shoot forward to. If you're losing weight and you want to lose 50 pounds but you only lose 25, you're still on the right path. Notice how all of our vocabulary even identifies that we have a timeline, we're on the right path. It feels like yesterday. It's because our brain is organizing time like this, and so we might as well use it to our advantage. Like I said, there's no, everybody does it a little bit different, and there's absolutely ways that you can tweak it and make it work better for you.
Mm-hmm. Christine is saying, my life is just starting again at 60. Smiley face. Yes, absolutely. I would add one thing to you, Christine. You're not starting from zero. Remember that. You're not starting from scratch. Even if you feel like, oh, I got nothing. No, no, no. First of all, you're living in one of the best countries in the world. And just living in Canada is extraordinary compared to majority of the countries where people are starving, have a war, don't have clean water, or economical situation or political situation is 100 times worse than where we are. So just being here is amazing. At the same time, you have enormous amount of experience. You're not starting from nothing, you're starting from experience. So a lot of mistakes that you have made in the past, you're not going to make them again. While somebody else who didn't make the same mistakes like you, they're going to make them now.
Right.
And we forget that. We forget that even the fact that we made so many mistakes and we felt like, oh, I got brainwashed, and it's like, listen, this experience of leaving this religion gave you enormous insight, because there is tons of witnesses, tons of people who are trying to become witnesses. They're studying right now as we speak, dreaming of getting baptized. I mean, it's true. That's their dream. I hope I'm going to get baptized. I hope I'm going to qualify. I'm going to go through the questions with the elders, and hopefully they will let me to get baptized. I mean, that's their dream. That's their timeline in their head. You're like, no, that's not my timeline. There's nothing that I want to do with these people anymore. You know you're not going to go that path. But they don't know. And they're going blindly into something that might be harmful to them. So you are not starting from zero. You're starting from experience.
You're starting with wisdom.
100%. 100%. And you're going to catch up so much quicker just because of your experience with JWs. Fantastic. Do you want to add anything else before we switch to rapport?
Nope.
All right. Fantastic. When it comes to timeline, I'm gonna try to summarize it from what I understand what you said.
Okay.
We need to create the timeline in our head to have a clear vision of where we're going. We could have more than one vision, which is extremely important to open up JW's minds. There could be this path, and if that path does not work for us, we can switch it to something else, and something else, and something else. We're not tied down to one path and one road. We also have to get rid of a baggage behind us that is so close. Just push it away from all the experiences that are not serving us. Maybe they're serving us as a protection and a reminder of not making the same mistakes again. However, at the same time, we could bring closer the memories we want and push away the memories we don't want.
Yep. Are we still there? Hello?
What? Was that my internet or yours? I don't know. Something's
I-
happening. We're back.
Okay. There's a commercial break.
All right. So we'll talk about one more topic. The topic is rapport. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is one of my favorite topics when it comes to NLP. There was, I think, the first tool that I learned and that I practiced, and I loved it so much. I used it, and I still use it every day. Basically, learning how to connect with people almost instantaneously comes for some people naturally, and other people really struggle with it. Now, what happened with Jehovah's Witnesses is this. You go across the world. You see, you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and you see people that are standing with the watchtower, and you're like, brother, sister, me. Yeah, you don't speak the language, but they're like, yeah, maybe you show them the blood card or something. Like, yeah, me, you, brother, you hug. And then, although you have never met, you feel these guys are my family. And then you have a connection, a bond. It's like instantaneously, these people are your friends. Why is it happening? They're complete strangers. You know nothing about them, do you? Well, truthfully, you know like 80% of their routines, their decision making, and their thinking ability, and you know their political view, you know what they think about morality, Bible, God, you know 80% of their thoughts. Here is the key to rapport. People like each other when they're like each other. The more things we have in common, the easier it is to develop rapport. Now, when we're meeting somebody who is complete stranger, and who was demonized in our head because this person is worldly and this person is bad, and we know nothing about them. We know nothing about their political views or about their morality views or about the religious views, about God views or whatever. We know nothing about them. It is so much harder to develop rapport because you don't know what connects you with that person. So what do people do? They ask questions. And they ask, where are you from? Oh, I'm from, I don't know, Missouri. And where are you from? Oh, I'm from Alaska. Oh, there's nothing in common there. Like, okay, what do you do here? What do you do there? What do you do for work? And they're starting to dig. Like questions are like, it's like a shovel. They're trying to dig something, like pick somebody's brain, and then all of a sudden, I'm a pilot, and I'm like, oh, I'm a pilot. You're a pilot. I'm a pilot. And all of a sudden, boom, click. Rapport happens because we found something in common. The more things we have in common, the easier it is to develop rapport. But here's something interesting. When you notice people that are completely in rapport, they're in sync, they're on the same wavelength, they'll start matching each other. They'll start speaking the same way. They'll start looking the same way. They'll start moving the same way. Look at what happens to Dina right now. They literally will mirror each other's body language, tone of voice, and they will become almost one. And you can see this very often. She's copying me right now, mocking me.
No, I'm in rapport with you.
Mimicking.
I'm in rapport with you.
and here is the key. Like what Dina is doing is this. She's copying my gestures. She's doing what I'm doing. And if you do that, if you just mirror the person, it's called matching and mirror. If you mirror the person, automatically the subconscious mind will pick up that, oh, this person is like me. And since you like yourself and you see in that person somebody who is exactly the same like you, they will like you. Now this is starting to be annoying.
Okay, but I'm illustrating a point. Sometimes when you're learning this, you do have to exaggerate it a little bit because you have to learn. This is a new skill that you're going to learn, and it does feel a little bit weird as you're copying somebody at 1st.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. The unconscious mind completely picks up on it. Maybe you can think of a time where you kind of felt a little quiet and timid and a little shy, and somebody comes up to you and they're just like, and they're just like all energy, and you just kind of cower back at them because you don't match. You're not matching. Their energy is not matching you. Whereas when somebody comes and they sit next to you and they change their tone of voice to match your tone of voice, there's a much easier connection there.
100%.
Especially if you start using the same body language, you're using the same words, you're speaking the same language. Because it's not just words that's our language. We speak the same body language. We speak the same tones. And that's huge, huge, huge when it comes to starting to make friends.
And you will see this when it comes to crowd control. It's very easily done with a song. So right at the beginning of every meeting and at the end, we would have a song and a prayer where everybody would stand up and everybody would sing and everybody would get on the same wavelength. And that's how you control a crowd. And it's done in the military where they teach them how to march. One of the first skills you have to learn as a soldier is to march together with other soldiers in exactly the same way. They'll teach you how to move your arms, where to move your head, and how to move your shoulders. And it has to match 100% with all your fellow soldiers. You go to you go to hockey game or whatever, and they'll start with an anthem, right? Everybody has to stand the same way and sing the same song. So it does work. It puts people on the same wavelength, and you automatically feel connected and united with the people who you sing the song with, or you do the same thing exactly the same way. Watch people who are in rapport. Watch good friends. It works so strong that if two women are like best friends, their periods will match. So it's not something that even we do consciously. Our brain will connect with the other person, sync, and your biologically will change. How many times somebody starts yawning and then you start What is that happening? I didn't want to yawn.
That wasn't even fake. I actually just started yawning.
I was wondering if you're gonna start yawning.
That was real.
I sometimes I would do this to my wife on purpose. I would like, I know we're in sync, we're in rapport, and then I would like, and then she's like, stop there. And then she starts, and she can't help it. Oh man, it's hilarious. But here's the beauty about it. I tell you how you could use this for your advantage. Knowing this, okay, and you can copy everything about the other person. Not so it's like super fake, but it's
Not as fake as I was doing just now.
yeah. You just be very subtle about it. But here's a couple of things that you can copy. So let's say if the person is sitting, sit exactly the same way they're sitting. So if they're leaning forward, you lean forward. If they're leaning back, you lean back. If they're leaning on the side, you can lean on the side. Right? If they have their legs crossed, you cross your legs. That's body mimicking, mirroring.
Mm-hmm.
Then the way they talk is extremely important. So if they speak really fast and they're trying to explain everything that they see and whatever, and then they go into this visual mode and they're trying to tell you a million things in a second, don't sit there and tell them about your stamp collection in a super low and slow voice, because you will not be on the same wavelength and you will never develop rapport. You match and mirror how they speak. If they speak fast, you speak fast. If they speak slow, you speak slow. If they speak a little faster or in the middle, you speak in the middle. If they speak louder, you speak louder. If they speak quiet, you speak quiet. It is extremely powerful because the person seeing this, hearing this, subconsciously will automatically think, you know what, we just met and I feel like I've known you forever. Because they will see themselves in you. And since they like themselves, they will automatically like you. Now, you might think we're all very exaggerating here. So I'm going to give you an example of how I use this for even my advantage, okay? And how it worked. So I was years ago, and I learned this when I was in my 20s. I had no experience, no job, no nothing. I was like looking for anything, and nobody would hire me. And there is one guy who's like, okay, come for the interview. And I'm like, okay, I'm going super nervous. I wanted to be an electrician. And I had no experience, zero experience in this. So I knew that my chances of getting hired are like next to zero, right? Well, very low at least. And when I went there, all what I knew is the skills I taught you. So I'm like, I got to develop rapport with him. And I have to convince him that I'm the guy that will stick with this job and I'll learn fast and whatever. But the only skill that I had is not electrical skills. I had rapport skills. So I go and his secretary was like, okay, he will see you now. You probably have 5 minutes, right? Because he would do those interviews in 5 minutes. Like he would know instantly whether the guy is good or not. So I walk in and he was like, okay, I have a stack of resumes over here on my desk. Tell me, why should I hire you? Right? And he was like this, like very intense. So I sat exactly like he was sitting, body language exactly the same way. And within like a minute or so, no more than that, I told him why I believed that I was the right person. And I said, I have so many offers for people that will hire me. Why should I work for you? Like the same way, the same tone of voice. This guy spent 20 minutes telling me how wonderful this company is. And this company is the best in the world. And I'll be stupid not to work for him. Okay. And I'm like, if he leaned back, I leaned back. If he moved forward, we move forward. If he spoke tough, I spoke tough. Like I was shaking inside. I'm like, this stuff, I think it's working, but I'm like, I'm shaking, right? Then I saw that he loves sailing, and I'm like, oh, you got a cottage, right? We started talking about the stuff that he likes, right? And then I said, okay, my father-in-law has a cottage, and then we're talking about boats. I was there 45 minutes. This guy not only hired me, but he hired me for higher money that he originally wanted. He gave me more time off than he gives anybody else at the beginning. Okay. And he invited me to his cottage. And when I left, okay, his secretary is like, you still here? But here's what he said the moment I was leaving. He said, Jack, I never saw you picking up a tool. I already know you're going to be one of my best guys. And I was laughing inside. I was laughing inside. Why? Because he saw himself in me. He has no idea who I am. He has never seen me working, but he saw himself in me, and he knows that who's the best for the job. He is. He's the best guy for the job because he's running the company. So he saw himself and he's like, this guy is just like me, therefore he's the best because I'm the best. Right? Oh man. And I'm like, this stuff works. This stuff works. So I use it all the time. I'll give you just one more example that really worked out very well for me and my wife. So we're buying this property, right? And we know there's another offer on the table. And I don't know what the other offer is because they don't tell you, right? They can't. So I'm like, okay, the only thing that I have right now as an advantage over the other guy is I know how to develop rapport. So I said to my agent, I need to meet this guy, okay? Because I saw his last name. His last name is Portuguese. My wife's Portuguese. I'm like, so I'm like, okay, we're meeting. Okay, we met, and then of course my wife talks to him in Portuguese. I know a few words, right? Make him laugh because all the words are, of course, funny. I'll leave it at that. And we developed this great rapport, right? Like he really felt connected with us, and we felt connected with him. And it comes to the day when the offers are presented. Both offers are presented. Our offer is $15,000 lower than the other guy. He looks at them. He says, which one is the nice guy who has a Portuguese wife? Sell it to him. We bought it because of that one skill. We connected with him, and he felt connected with us. And he chose a lower offer, even though we never saw him after that. We're not friends. We just felt this connection through rapport. That's how powerful that stuff is. If you ever want to influence anybody, you can't force anybody. You can manipulate anybody. But what you can do is you can influence. And if you want to influence, there's only 2 steps to it. Number 1 is you have to develop rapport. And number 2, you have to be more certain than the other person. If you have those 2, you will influence the person that you have rapport with. Mm-hmm. Very often, Jehovah's Witnesses are always asking me, like, how do you wake up somebody? How do you wake up a Jehovah's Witness? I'm like, step number 1, rapport. You can't bring to witnesses all the things you disagree with, all the dirt that you found. You can't. For crying out loud, as a Jehovah's Witness, you've been taught so often at every Thursday meeting how to develop rapport with the householder. You go and talk about the beautiful garden that they have. You
find something in common.
You found commonality. That's where you start the conversation. All those years of training. And then you wake up from this religion, then you go to Jehovah's Witnesses, and you're like, I'm going to tell you about the Australian Royal Commission. I mean, you break the rapport. There is no way for you to influence them. You start with rapport. And the way you start with rapport is, like we mentioned, you mirror the body language, you mirror the tone of voice. You never attack anybody because automatically they'll become defensive. And the quickest way to develop rapport, if you want to choose a subject, is through compliments. You actually give people minimum 2 compliments. So if you want to develop rapport with, let's say, a Jehovah's Witness, first, before you say anything else, you have to find at least 2 things you respect Jehovah's Witnesses. 2 things, whether it's the fact that they don't go to war. You're not worried that another Jehovah's Witness will come here with a machine gun and tell you this is my house now, right? Whatever it is that you know that Jehovah's Witnesses are doing, and you actually respect that. You got to say at least a couple of things. Then and only then they will feel like, oh, this person is not attacking me. He's actually in rapport with me. He's actually connected with me, right? So you go like this, right? Next to the person. You give them a compliment, and then you make a tiny little shift, right? And you see if they follow. You say, oh, there is so many changes with the new light that is happening. It's unbelievable. Wow, I'm so happy about the changes. What else do you think will change? Now their mind starts opening because they're like, oh yeah, other things could change too. There are things that I believe are true and will never change that could change. I never expected us to have beards and women wear pants and not counting hours, and I never expect those things to happen, and yet they're happening. Wonder what else? And I think you were talking about this in the previous thing, that you got to start make the person wonder. I wonder what else they're gonna change. I wonder what the new light will be the next time. I wonder what else we're gonna be able to do. And then you can brainstorm. It's like, do you think birthdays are gonna be the next thing? Right? No, 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 birthday. No, 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 no. Yeah. Maybe. Right? I don't know. And then you start opening up more. But if you're not in rapport, if you don't have that connectedness, you will not have any impact on them. And I do also another technique with your hands. If you can just, I think you saw this, right? You put your
Yeah.
hands together like this, right? And then you push as hard as you can with your right hand against your left, knowing very well that your left is probably weaker than your right. But even though you push really hard, your hands are still in the same spot. How come? I didn't even say to push back. It just automatically happens. And the forces will equal. The harder you push, the harder you will push back, even if it's you.
Even your own hands.
This is automatically, right? So I love this tool. You don't have to be worried about, okay, I'm not going to be able to develop rapport. Oh, I'm not like this. It feels odd. It feels unfamiliar. Every time you feel that something is scary, okay, I've never done this before, it's simply unfamiliar. That's all what it is. And every time you do something new, something that you've never done before, it feels odd, it feels awkward. But after a while, it becomes a second nature. And very often I will tell people, okay, listen, you do this already. You just don't know. Consciously, you don't know. But every time you meet your friend, I guarantee you're going to match and mirror them 100%. Their tone of voice, their body language, what they
That's the first
or
thing that people always say, well, this sounds manipulative. No, this is communication.
100%.
This is communication. When you so one of the comments here, Lonnie says that she met a lady once and the connection was so strong, she doesn't even remember her name. I guarantee you, you guys were automatically matching each other. Your shoulders, your body language, your tone of voice, whether you were sitting, because this is human nature. This is how we communicate with people. Well, you know what? I don't want to manipulate somebody. You're not. You
You're not.
can't manipulate somebody. I mean, that's in the movies. I mean, it's not, you can't, people aren't that easy to manipulate. So don't be fake. Actually be, since when you're really honestly sincere with somebody, you're doing this anyway. So now you're in this whole new world of trying to make friends at work, trying to make friends with, your kids' parents of your kids' friends at school or whatever. You have a whole new world of people that you want to make friends with. And this is how you do it. It's personal interest. It's reciprocating what they're showing you. And like I said, you're doing this all the time. Whoever it is that you already like or that you're already friends with, you're already doing this with. So now you're just opening up your horizons to just doing it to more people. And it feels good. It doesn't feel manipulative. It never feels bad when you do it sincerely. I mean, I
Of
guess there's
course.
some fake people out there, but when
Well,
you're really doing it because you want to be friends with somebody, this is naturally how you do it. So now you're aware of what you're naturally going to do anyway, and you can improve that skill, because why not improve your communication with people?
when we were learning this and we were training each other, what we did was we put people in groups, and then we would take two people, we would put them in front of us, and then one person would have a thought, a certain feeling, okay, whether there was, the feeling didn't matter, whether it was being jealous, curious, angry, happy, whatever it was, right? Would have a feeling, and then he would try to express it through his body language, right? So he'd be like, hmm, Okay? And then we would take the second person and we would make sure that they look exactly the same, like in the mirror, hands the same way, body posture the same way, looking the same way, eyes are focusing the same way, like 100% would be a mirror reflection. And then we would ask the second person, what do you feel? And almost 100%, like I think that the statistic, like 96%, that person would say exactly the same word as the other person was thinking because they were in sync. And it's incredible. When you do this, it's not about manipulating, like Gina said, it's about entering the other person's world. Because when you enter the other person's world, you'll be able to feel what they feel. You'll be able to think how they're thinking. And with that connection, okay, they will feel it too. They're like, oh man, I really feel that you understand me because you talk like me, you sound like me, you look like me. So, of course, if you are like me, therefore you understand me. If you're not like me, if I see just differences everywhere, then you don't get it. You don't get what I'm talking about. But just by copying and mirroring the other person, you will be able to enter their world.
So another way that this tool is hugely beneficial. So first of all, when NLP was developed, they developed it based off of the idea that if one person does something really, really, really well, if you figure out how exactly they do it, you can model that and also learn to do it really, really well. So, you know, if somebody's a golf player and they have a certain stance, a certain swing, a certain body posture, you can model that and improve your own golf game. Well, I speak multiple languages and I have taught multiple languages. And one of the first things that I do is I will encourage people to start walking like a Haitian. Like, so when I was in the Dominican Republic, I taught Haitian Creole to the foreigners that came to learn Haitian Creole. And one of the first things I would teach them to do is not just learn the words, but learn the intonations, learn how the words flow, walk, use the body posture, because if you get into their brain with all of that body communication, it actually helps you learn a language better too.
Yeah, it's incredible
Mhm.
how we even say what the birds of the feather will flock
Walk
together. Right?
together. Hmm.
Because even
Hmm.
animals were like, okay, you look like me, you act like me, and then all the zebras are running together, and these type of birds will go together, and that type of
Hmm.
a animal will go together. It's in our DNA now
Yeah.
to actually, when you're in the same tribe, we feel connected when we see the same thing. So we were connected with Jehovah's Witnesses because we knew them so well. It was like instant rapport. But with so-called worldly people, it might be a challenge because we feel like we have nothing in common with them. And now the only people I have in common with are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. No, no,
Hmm.
no, no. You could use this tool that we were teaching you to develop rapport with anybody. And
Hmm.
it's not you becoming somebody else. It's you tapping into the modality that you have within you. Because we all have it. Sometimes you speak slow. Sometimes you feel like there was some depth in you and you want to discuss something in detail. And sometimes you're excited and you want to talk about your new vision and your idea. You don't have to be always the same. And when you see somebody being excited, don't talk about details because they will not be happy about it. But
Hmm.
you match and mirror their excitement, and guess what? The rapport will explode, and they will love you, even though they like. I don't know what it is about the person. They're so amazing.
Hmm. Yep. You
It's,
know,
it's
another time you'll hear this in everyday life that you probably never even paid attention to. Excuse me. You'll notice if somebody is talking to a small child, they change their tone of voice, they change
Mhm.
their sentence structure. They're like, oh, and they'll start speaking like little child language. And then that child will almost immediately love the adult. And
100%.
that's because we're already doing this rapport all the time anyway.
And it's actually, if you have kids, this is an extraordinary tool that you should be using all the time with kids. If your kid is even misbehaving and you want to punish them, or you want to, well, discipline them, you always should go down to their level, so it's the same eye contact, right, on the same level, or lift them up if they're small and put them on your knee, or you go down and you
Mhm.
talk to them on the same level, right? And you connect with them first, and then you talk about what they should have done better. Otherwise they will just be fearful, and when you tell them, oh, you should clean up the room or whatever, automatically they're thinking, "Okay, I will do it because you're telling me to, but," and then there is this huge but, and they will only do it because they're afraid of, losing
Mhm.
a cell phone or something like that, right? But truthfully, if you connect with them, then usually that mistake that they've made will only be made once, because you will be able to influence them for the better if you connect with them. But if you don't connect with them, then you will rule by fear, and if you rule by fear, it's a very short-lived, very
Yeah.
short-lived.
This is reaching the heart. This is techniques to reach the heart.
So if you're thinking it's manipulative, no, 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 no. It's entering the other person's world to better communicate, to be more effective.
Mhm.
Because if you're communicating and you're not effective, then you might as well
What's the
talk to a
point?
wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have to connect with the other person. Okay? And some people are like, well, how do you connect with people who are, let's say, they call you and you can't even see them? Well, number one thing that you mirror is the way they speak, right? If they speak slow or if they speak fast, if they speak
Mhm.
quiet or do they speak loud, like you match and mirror the tonality, the tone of voice, the timbre. You match those things. Then you can also match the words. It's very important to match the words. So if somebody says, that was such an amazing game, you don't say, yeah, that was a good game. That's not the same. I think it's close, but it's not the same. You just say, yeah, that was an amazing game, wasn't it? And then instantly it's the same word, same words. And you just repeat it back to them, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're on the same wavelength. We will both feel the same way because we're using the same words. One of the best interviewer, I forget his name right now. I had it on the tip of my tongue. But he was interviewing people for decades, and he could develop rapport with anybody instantly. And they asked him, what's your secret? And here's what he said. He said this. My secret was this. I would pick people's words, key words in the sentence that they said, and I would repeat it back to them. So if they would say, there was an amazing game last night I saw, it's like, oh, game you saw, right? And then like, yeah, I saw the game, and I went to the stadium, and I saw the hockey, and Maple Leafs were playing against Bruins, and blah blah blah. And like, oh, Maple Leafs were playing, huh? Oh, okay, in Toronto. Oh, okay. And then we just repeat the keywords back to them, and they're like, this guy understands me so well. He listens so well. He knows everything about me. So he sees me naked, right? Because he just picked the keywords and repeated it back with a question mark at the end. And the people will not stop talking. They're like, just love it. They just love it. Right? Here's one more thing I'm gonna give you as a tool. Very often for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, the challenge is trauma bonding. So yes, we have in common a lot of bad things that happen to us, maybe the shunning, maybe the losing the family. And when we bond with people who are just like us, who have the same past, we don't have any success to bond on. So, and success was always frowned upon, because you don't share successes. You share successes, you're boastful and you're not humble, and you're
Mhm.
a buffoon and all those things, right? So you share problems, you share how badly you got screwed up, you share how many people lied to you and how many people are shunning you, and this trauma bonding becomes a problem. At the beginning it feels like, oh yeah, these people understand me, I get this love and care, and everybody is the same like me, and people like each other when they're like each other.
And they say misery loves company.
There you go. But the challenge with that is, after a while, it becomes toxic. It
Yeah.
becomes toxic to you, becomes toxic to your friends, and your friendship and connections will start deteriorating, even though you don't realize. Just people will get tired of you talking about the same things over and over again, right? 20 years ago, somebody screwed me over because I can't see my kids anymore. Like, okay, well, there's nothing we can do about it. It's time to move on. And they will not tell you this to your face, but they will start separating themselves from you, and they will not have enough time to spend with you, and they will find excuses why not to talk about the same thing over and over again. So here's how you can hack it. You steer the conversation after you've developed rapport. You steer the conversation with one word: favorite. What is your favorite? So you don't ask, how was your vacation? Because they could say, oh, it was good or bad. Oh, this guy screwed me over and they lost my luggage. And they just come to this file in their brain of the worst vacation ever. But if you ask, what was your favorite vacation? Then they automatically go to the best vacation they ever had. What's your favorite car? What's your favorite house? What's your favorite clothing? What's your favorite flower? I don't care what it is. You use the word favorite, and guess what? Every time they talk to you, that box opens in their brain with all the stuff that they remember as beautiful. That was the best, their favorite, their peak experiences, and they connect this. Talking to you feels good. I'm talking about my favorite stuff. I love it. I want more.
Yeah.
And they will love you forever. And they'll never separate yourself from them because they want to talk about their favorite stuff. That's how simple it is.
Yeah.
And it works. Tina, who's your favorite interviewer? Don't answer that.
You are, Jack. You know that.
Oh, boy. All right. So now I want to ask if somebody wants to join us. I'm going to post the link again.
You know you want to.
And please, if you don't want to join us because you're shy, we know how to develop rapport. We'll be.
You're going to love us.
You could also throw a question at us in the comments. So I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention to much to the comments. Some of them are short. Somebody says, I don't understand why I always feel guilty for leaving the cult. It's been 8 months. 8 months? Oh, man, you're still a young person. The first year is the hardest.
You're still a rookie.
Your brain was programmed into feeling guilty for leaving the cult. Of course.
Actually, your brain was programmed to feel guilty for pretty much everything, always.
Except doing what's right for the kingdom.
No, even then, you should feel guilty because you didn't do it more.
I didn't do enough, yeah.
Yeah. You went out and served 10 hours, you should feel guilty that it wasn't 15. You need to feel guilty for all your sins. You need to feel guilty for all your thoughts. Guilt got wired into us. So you're not feeling guilty for leaving the cult. You're feeling guilty. Period. It's a looping. It's a looping. That needs to be unplugged. It's not what you're doing that's causing that feeling. That feeling's already there.
The truth is, they should feel guilty for what they have done to people. That's the truth. Not you. You should feel proud for leaving that stuff.
It takes a lot of courage to leave.
Enormous amount of courage.
You should feel courageous.
And enormous amount of strength. And we admire you for taking the stand and to leave. And yes, the first year is the hardest, but you've got some guts because it is super hard, and majority of people actually don't do it. You know, your congregation probably still full of witnesses who are there. So the fact that you left, you should do this. Pat yourself on the back, because very few people have that level of courage. So yeah, congratulate yourself. You could also contact me or Dina, and we'll be able to help you one-on-one. But definitely, guilt is programmed into every single cult member there is, not just Jehovah's Witnesses. It's one of the techniques that they use in order to keep people there. Because
control technique.
When you think about it, every healthy organization there is on this planet, every university and school, whatever you go, and any course that you take, they will teach you how to become good so you no longer need them.
Yeah.
That's a healthy place where you finish any school and say, thank you very much, you graduated, go do your best.
Here, little bird, fly, fly,
Yeah.
get your wings and fly.
With a cult, any cult is, you will always need us, you will never make it on your own, and if you try, you're the bad one.
Yeah.
It's called gaslighting, where every problem is always on you. And I give people this illustration that helps them to see the real problem. Okay, imagine this: you're in the bank doing banking, whatever, and then the guy comes with a machine gun and he says, "Everybody down," and he's taking everybody hostage. And you're like, "Okay, I got to get out of here. This guy's gonna kill us." But he says this: "If any of you escape, I'm going to kill one of the hostages." But maybe inside you believe this guy's gonna kill everybody anyways, because he's showing his face to everybody. Like, he's just gonna kill everybody and go. So you see a window, you jump out of the window and you're running. You're running for your life. I'm like, I'm free, right? While you're running, you hear a gunshot. Then he opens the window and he says, "This person just died because you escaped. Blood on your hands." Now you feel guilty. Who did the crime? Who is the terrorist? But because the rules that the terrorists set up were there, set up by him, now you feel guilty that somebody died because you broke the rules. Now that was a terrorist. Now in the cult, it's exactly the same thing. They're setting up the rules and they're saying, if you break the rules, blood on your hands. To the point where I think Tony Morris said, if you don't go to service for 2 weeks, you have blood on your hands already.
Yeah.
That level of terrorizing people's minds to say, you know what, well, who's gonna do the killing? When you think about it, the actual people who think they're gonna go to heaven, in that case, Tony Morris is planning to go to heaven, and he's planning to return with Jesus to do the slaughter. So he's the one telling you, you go to service or I will have to go later on and kill these people. I mean, that's what he believes. That's the reality. And then he will blame you that, oh, see, I'm killing these people because of you. You didn't turn them into witnesses. Blood on your hands. This is how crazy this stuff is. Time to let go and say, you know what? These people should be ashamed of themselves, not me. They should feel guilty, not me. For healing myself from this mindset.
There's another word in there too. He says always. There is almost nothing in the universe is always, because life is very fluid. Emotions are very fluid. The largest, most biggest, beautiful trees in the world start with a teeny tiny seed. So one thing that I would suggest that you start doing right away is notice the 5% of time when you feel okay, when you feel happy. You can even feel tired if you want. Just notice the opposite of guilt. Anything that's not guilt. Because it's impossible for you to always feel guilty. Notice that 5%, notice that 1% of something different. Notice if it's happy, notice if it's tired, notice if it's sad, maybe it's a little bit optimistic, maybe you're hungry. But start noticing those other emotions, because I promise you they're there. And by eliminating that word always, it will help your brain reprogram your brain. If you say the words that you always feel like that, you're actually going to be reinforcing that feeling too. So start noticing those 5 seconds a day when you feel something different.
Fantastic. No, guilt is one of the big ones for every cult there is, and you're not alone on this. But you're on the right path, and you're watching us. You're doing the right thing by educating yourself. So that's fantastic.
should definitely keep watching us every
Yeah,
week.
that's right. That's right. We might be touching on the subject next time. All right. John is asking something. Need I read this?
I came out with my daughter 10. She was indoctrinated for years by me and congregation meetings. Will that programming fade with time? Should I do something specific to try to help? So I assume that you're probably talking about her. You're probably more concerned about your 10-year-old than you are about you. She's young. So she's got the okay. So if I tell you, think about as many memories as you can think of when you were 10 and younger, you probably can't come up with a whole lot. And that's good. That's going to work in her advantage too. Because as she grows, what happened when she was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is not going to be as heavily enforced. But should you do something specific to try to help her do deprogramming, help her understand what was why you left, what's the contrast. I guess my other question would be, does she have family in still? Does she have
Yeah.
grandparents, anybody
Yeah.
else that's in that might be counteracting whatever it is that you
Well,
do to
her
help her?
mom might be. See, we don't know the full story. I
Mhm.
remember being on the same boat together because my
Yeah,
daughters were exactly the same age, 8 and 10, when I woke up, and I'm like, I've been teaching them and reading the Bible stories every
right.
night, from the infancy, pretty much. And all of a sudden, I no longer believe this. What do I do, right? And how
Right.
is this going to affect my kids? I was shocked how quickly the kids adopt. It's like
Yeah.
telling them Santa Claus doesn't exist, and they're like, "What?" And then the next day they're
Okay.
okay. Yeah, we're making such a big deal out of it. They adopt very, very quickly, much quicker than adults, as a matter of fact. So they usually enjoy the fact, oh, now we're gonna get birthday presents, and then it's not gonna be so strict. And usually kids don't really like going to service or meetings; that they find it boring. They adopt 100 times quicker. Uh, However, I would definitely have a conversation with your daughter about any fears that she might have, any fears of Armageddon, any fears of I don't know, success, any fears of guilt or anything like this. If she has any fears associated with the indoctrination that you yourself were doing, and address those. The rest, don't worry about it, but address the fears to make sure that they don't affect her.
Probably too, make sure that you help her focus on finding new friends. Because if you indoctrinated her and now she doesn't have those friends, make sure that you replace a social circle with new people so that she doesn't feel like she's disfellowshipped, like she's isolated or anything. That's important too.
And that was something that I did with my daughters too. I told them, like, listen, the beauty about the whole thing is you never have to worry about shunning from me. This will never happen. Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
that is out of the question. That's one. Second is, I admit I was wrong, and you should admit when you were wrong. So you could believe something, you could be misled. That doesn't mean you're lying. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you were mistaken. And when you realize you were mistaken, admit it, just like I'm admitting it to you right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, that's going to end up being a great lesson for her.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Kids loved it. And at the same time, you start teaching her critical thinking skills.
Hmm.
So if somebody says, "Hey, listen, I'm a Muslim and I believe in Muhammad that flew to the moon on a horse," right? Whatever it is, like, okay, great. That's their claim. Let's do the critical thinking. If it's possible, right? And is it probable? And what proof do we have why billion people believe this and why you shouldn't, right? So
Hmm.
the fact that you woke up, the fact that you're teaching your daughter now new things, it's a great way of teaching her how to evaluate evidence in order for her to make up her mind. Because they're gonna go to school, then they're gonna be faced with teachers and other kids and peer group that will have sometimes greater influence than you. You want to make sure that what you teach them is how to think, not what to think, but how to think, so they can develop good self-esteem and pick and choose the right data in order to form their beliefs.
Hmm.
Because as a parent, two things you're gonna influence them on is that your beliefs and the values. And those two things, as a parent, you have to install as much as you possibly can. Hopefully that helps.
Anybody else? Come on, come on.
Give us something. Throw us a bone. If not, we're gonna finish our show. We're already over an hour. Look at that. I thought it was gonna be under an hour, but we're always over an hour. That's okay, because that's extra stuff for you guys. Okay. Anything to finish? Or we're done? We're done. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Dina. And we'll see you in the next one.
Okay.
Bye.